The morning sun had barely risen when Thomas Wilson sat alone in his spacious office, staring at his computer screen with a deep frown. As the CEO of Golden Road Rentals for over 12 years, he thought he knew everything about the company he had built from the ground up. But the email on his screen told a different story. "I rented a car from your Denver branch that nearly got my family killed," the message began. "The brakes barely worked, and when I complained, the staff acted like I was making it up." Thomas rubbed his tired eyes. This wasn't the first complaint he'd received this month. In fact, customer satisfaction scores had been dropping steadily for the past year. Something was wrong, and the usual company reports weren't showing him the real picture. He clicked through more reviews online. 1 star, 2 stars. Angry customers describing dirty vehicles, mechanical problems, and rude staff. His company, once known for top-notch service, was becoming a joke on review sites. "Mr. Wilson?" His assistant, Lily, knocked gently on the door. "The board members are waiting in the conference room for your quarterly presentation." Thomas nodded but didn't move from his chair. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes." After Lily left, Thomas leaned back and looked at the wall of awards his company had won over the years. Best customer service. Top rental company. All from years ago. What had changed? In the conference room, Thomas delivered the usual updates about profits and expansion plans, but his heart wasn't in it. After the meeting, his longtime friend and company lawyer Robert pulled him aside. "You seem distracted today. Everything okay?" Thomas showed him the latest batch of complaints on his phone. "We have a problem, and I don't think anyone's being straight with me about what's really happening at our locations." Robert scrolled through the reviews and whistled. "That's not good. But you know how customers can exaggerate. 15 similar complaints in 1 month isn't exaggeration," Thomas said. "Something's wrong, and I need to find out what it is." Later that afternoon, Thomas called his most trusted team members to his office. He paced back and forth while explaining his idea. "I want to go undercover in our own company," he said simply. The room fell silent. His HR director, Janet, was the first to speak up. "You mean like those TV shows? Boss disguises himself as a regular worker?" "Exactly like that," Thomas nodded. "I'll work as a car cleaner at our Denver location. That branch has the most complaints, but on paper they're hitting all their targets. Something doesn't add up." His operations manager, Pete, shook his head. "This is crazy, Tom. You haven't cleaned a car in decades. Plus, everyone knows what you look like." Thomas walked to the window looking out at the city below. "Not the new hires. We've grown so much in the past 5 years. Most ground-level employees have never met me in person." Janet still looked worried. "What about your schedule? You have meetings, presentations?" "You'll handle them," Thomas said, turning back to the room. "Tell everyone I'm taking a short sabbatical to work on our new expansion strategy. 2 weeks, that's all I need." Despite more objections from his team, Thomas's mind was made up. The next day, he visited a barbershop far from the company headquarters. His usual neatly trimmed hair was cut shorter, and his distinguished gray-streaked beard was shaved off completely. He bought glasses with clear lenses and clothing from a discount store, jeans, plain t-shirts, and a worn baseball cap. Standing in front of his bathroom mirror that night, Thomas barely recognized himself. Gone was the polished CEO in tailored suits. In his place stood Tom Walker, an ordinary middle-aged man looking for work. This might actually work, he mumbled to himself. The following Monday, Thomas arrived at the Denver branch of Golden Road Rentals, resume in hand. He had arranged with HR to make sure his application would be accepted, but the branch manager, Dave Reynolds, knew nothing about the new hire's true identity. The rental facility was busier than Thomas expected. Customers lined up at the counter while employees rushed around the lot, bringing cars forward or parking returned vehicles. Dave barely looked at Thomas's paperwork. "Ever cleaned cars before?" "A long time ago," Thomas answered truthfully. "Not rocket science," Dave said with a shrug. "Carlos will show you the ropes. We pay every 2 weeks. Don't be late, don't steal, don't damage the cars. Any questions?" Thomas shook his head, surprised by the brief introduction. No mention of company values. No talk about customer service. Just don't be late, don't steal. Carlos turned out to be a young man in his 20s, who spoke quickly and moved even faster. He led Thomas to the cleaning area behind the main building. So basically you got 15 minutes per car, Carlos explained, grabbing a spray bottle and cloth. Vacuum, wipe down, windows, tires, air freshener, done. Mark it on this sheet when you finish. 15 minutes? Thomas asked. The company manual specified a 30-minute minimum cleaning process. Is that enough time to do a good job? Carlos laughed. Man, you want to make your numbers or not? Nobody actually spends more than 10 minutes on a car unless a customer puked in it or something. Thomas was given a set of keys to his first vehicle, a mid-sized sedan that had just been returned. As Carlos walked away, Thomas stood there for a moment, taking it all in. This was his company, but already it felt like a completely different world from his executive office. Opening the car door, he found fast food wrappers under the seats, coffee stains on the center console, and a strange smell he couldn't identify. According to the company standards he himself had written years ago, this car should receive a thorough cleaning before being rented again. But as he looked around, he saw other employees rushing through their cleaning tasks, barely checking the vehicles before marking them as ready. Thomas took a deep breath and grabbed the vacuum cleaner. His undercover journey had begun, and already he suspected he wasn't going to like what he discovered. 15 minutes per car, he mumbled as he started working. Let's see what corners they're cutting. Thomas had been working undercover at the Denver branch for 3 days now. His hands were rough from cleaning, his back ached from bending into cars all day, and he had a new appreciation for how physically demanding the job was. But more than the physical toll, it was what he was learning about his company that truly exhausted him. On the morning of his third day, Thomas arrived 15 minutes early for his shift. The employee break room was small and dingy, with a coffee maker that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in months. A few workers sat around a wobbly table, drinking coffee and checking their phones before clocking in. Morning. Thomas nodded to them as he poured himself a cup of the bitter coffee. A maintenance worker named Luis nodded back. Ready for another exciting day of making dirty cars slightly less dirty? He joked. Before Thomas could answer, the door swung open. Dave Reynolds, the branch manager Thomas had met briefly on his first day, walked in with a woman Thomas hadn't seen before. Listen up, Dave announced. I'm heading to the regional meeting today. Lisa Chen will be in charge. She runs our weekend shifts, but she's covering for me all week. Any problems, take them to her. Lisa looked around the room with sharp eyes. She was dressed in the company's standard management uniform, black pants and a blue polo shirt with the company logo. But unlike Dave's wrinkled appearance, Lisa's clothes were perfectly pressed and her posture was rigid. Time to clock in, she said, checking her watch. Let's have a good day, people. As the workers filed out of the break room, Thomas overheard two cleaners whispering. Great, Dragon Lady's in charge all week. Yeah, but the cars will pass inspection with her around. Thomas was curious what they meant. He soon found out. 2 hours into his shift, Thomas was restocking his cleaning cart when Lisa approached with a clipboard. Tom Walker, right? The new guy? She asked, looking him up and down. Yes, ma'am, Thomas answered, feeling strange being addressed this way by someone who technically worked for him. You're using too much cleaning product, she said bluntly. These bottles should last 3 days, not 1. Watch. Lisa took his spray bottle of interior cleaner and walked to a nearby sink. She dumped out half the blue liquid, then filled the bottle with water from the tap. There, she said, handing it back. Same cleaning power, half the cost. Thomas frowned. But doesn't that make it less effective? Lisa's smile didn't reach her eyes. Look, Walker, I don't know where you worked before, but here we understand something called profit margins. This location has the best numbers in the company because I watch every penny. I thought we had the best numbers because of customer satisfaction, Thomas said carefully. Lisa laughed. Customer satisfaction doesn't pay the bills, now get back to work. Throughout the morning, Thomas noticed other corners being cut. The vacuum cleaners were old and barely functioning. The air fresheners were being sprayed once instead of the recommended 2 pumps. and cars were being marked as fully cleaned after just 10 minutes of hasty wiping. After lunch, Thomas was assigned to clean a blue sedan that had just been returned. The outside looked fine, but inside he immediately noticed something concerning. When he moved the driver's seat back to vacuum underneath, he heard a strange grinding noise. Curious, he checked under the car and noticed what looked like a fluid leak. Being the CEO of a rental car company, Thomas knew exactly what he was looking at: brake fluid. This car had a serious brake issue that needed immediate attention. He found Lisa inspecting another vehicle nearby. "Excuse me," he called out. "That sedan over there, I think it has brake problems. There's fluid leaking, and the pedal feels soft when you press it." Lisa glanced at the car, then at her watch. "Did the customer complain about the brakes?" Thomas shook his head. "No, I just noticed it while cleaning." "Then it's fine," she said dismissively. "Just finish the cleaning and mark it ready for rental." Thomas couldn't believe what he was hearing. But it could be dangerous. The brakes might fail. Lisa's friendly facade dropped completely. "Listen, new guy, we don't have time or budget to fix every little thing that might be wrong. If the car drives and the customer doesn't complain, we rent it. That's how it works." "But company policy says—" "I know what the policy says," Lisa cut him off. "I also know that headquarters wants profit, and they don't care how we get it as long as the numbers look good. Now, are you going to be a team player, or do I need to find someone who will?" The threat was clear. Thomas reluctantly returned to the sedan, his mind racing. This wasn't just cutting corners on cleaning supplies. This was potentially putting customers in danger. Over the next few hours, Thomas paid closer attention to the maintenance side of the operation. He noticed that the mechanics on staff were overwhelmed with work. They focused only on the most obvious problems that customers had reported, rushing through checks that should have been thorough. During his break, Thomas struck up a conversation with Tony, one of the mechanics. "Seems like you guys are pretty busy," Thomas commented. Tony snorted. "Busy is an understatement. We're supposed to have 5 mechanics for a location this size. We have 2. And Lisa keeps pushing to cut our hours. Doesn't that affect the safety checks?" Tony looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Man, there are no real safety checks. Not like there should be. We're told to focus on what the customer can see or feel right away. AC, radio, obvious noises. The rest?" He shrugged. "Unless someone complains, it doesn't get fixed." By the end of his shift, Thomas had documented at least 3 more vehicles with potential safety issues that were put back into the rental fleet. One had worn tires that were below the legal tread depth. Another had a check engine light that had been covered with black tape. The third had a seatbelt in the back that didn't click properly. As Thomas drove home in his own car, not a company vehicle, he thought about what he had witnessed. Lisa Chen was known throughout the company for running the most profitable branch. He had personally congratulated her in company-wide emails. She had received bonuses based on her performance metrics, but now he understood how she achieved those numbers. By cutting corners, by ignoring safety concerns, by putting profit above people. "This stops now," Thomas muttered to himself as he pulled into his driveway. Tomorrow, he would dig deeper. He needed to understand if this was just one bad manager, or a system-wide problem that had grown under his watch. After a full week of working undercover, Thomas had seen enough to know there was a serious problem at the Denver branch. Each day brought new discoveries that made his stomach twist with worry and disappointment. As he pulled into the employee parking lot for his morning shift, he decided today would be different. Today he would gather solid proof. Thomas had purchased a small voice recorder from an electronics store the night before. It wasn't something he'd normally do, but these weren't normal circumstances. People's safety was at risk. He slipped the recorder into his pocket as he headed into the building. The morning started like any other. Lisa Chen held her daily team meeting, emphasizing speed over quality and reminding everyone about the monthly bonus they'd get if they maintained their efficiency metrics. Thomas noticed how she never once mentioned customer safety or satisfaction. "Remember," Lisa said, tapping her clipboard, "we're in a competition with every other branch. Headquarters only cares about the numbers. You want to keep your jobs? Keep those numbers good." Thomas felt a chill hearing his company described this way. Is that really what employees thought of headquarters? Of him? By mid-morning, Thomas was assigned to clean a minivan that had just been returned. It was a family vehicle with car seats in the back and toys scattered throughout. As he began the standard cleaning process, he noticed the rear tires were badly worn on the inside edge, a sign of alignment problems that could cause a blowout at high speeds. Following procedure, the real procedure, not Lisa's version, Thomas reported the issue to the maintenance team. Tony, the mechanic he'd spoken with earlier in the week, came over to check. Yeah, that's bad, Tony confirmed, kneeling beside the tire. These should have been replaced 1,000 miles. Ago. So you'll replace them before this goes out again? Thomas asked. Tony looked uncomfortable. I'll report it to Lisa. It's her call. 20 minutes later, Lisa arrived, clearly annoyed at being pulled away from her office. She glanced briefly at the tires. It's fine, she declared. The customer already paid for this rental. Family of 5 coming in from the airport in an hour. We don't have another minivan available. But the tires aren't safe, Thomas insisted, forgetting momentarily that he was supposed to be just a car cleaner. Lisa raised her eyebrows at his tone. Are you a mechanic now, Walker? The tires are within legal limits. Barely, but they are. But. No. Buts. Clean it and get it ready for the family. Lisa turned to leave, then stopped. And while you're at it, check the back seat belts. A customer mentioned one was sticky. Just spray some WD-40 on it if it's not clicking right. As Lisa walked away, Thomas discreetly pressed the record button in his pocket. Could you explain what you just told me about the tires and seatbelt? Just so I'm clear on the policy. Lisa sighed dramatically. Look, we only replace things when they're completely broken, not just wearing out. That's how we keep costs down. Those tires will last another few hundred miles at least. As for the seatbelt, a little lubricant will make it click. It doesn't need to be replaced. Even though children will be sitting back there, Lisa's face hardened. Let me make something clear. Your job is to clean cars, not question management decisions. If you want to keep working here, you need to understand how things operate. We meet our targets by being efficient with resources. Even if it puts customers at risk? Thomas asked, heart pounding. Nobody's at risk, Lisa snapped. This is how the whole industry works. You think any rental company replaces parts before they absolutely have to? That's not how you make profit. Thomas felt the weight of the recorder in his pocket. I understand now. Thanks for explaining. Throughout the day, Thomas documented more safety issues that were being ignored. Brake pads that were worn too thin, a cracked windshield being rented out because the crack was small enough, an oil leak that was dismissed as normal seepage. During his lunch break, Thomas made a private call to his CFO, Philip, from inside his car. Phil, I need you to look into something for me, Thomas said quietly. Check our bonus structure for branch managers. Specifically, what metrics are Lisa Chen of the Denver branch being measured on? Give me a minute, Philip said. Thomas could hear keyboard clicks in the background. Okay, got it. Lisa Chen's bonus is calculated based on 3 metrics: fleet, utilization rate, maintenance costs, and rental turnover time. What about customer satisfaction or safety ratings? Thomas asked. Those are listed as secondary factors, but they only account for about 10% of the total bonus calculation. Thomas closed his eyes in frustration. Who approved this bonus structure? It was implemented 3 years ago by the regional director, Walter Perez. You signed off on the overall program, but the specific metrics were left to regional management to determine based on local needs. Thomas remembered now. He had approved the framework but hadn't reviewed the specific implementation. It was a classic CEO mistake, delegating without proper oversight. Thanks, Phil. I'll call you back. Thomas spent the rest of his shift carefully, documenting every safety issue he found, taking photos with his phone when no one was looking. He recorded 2 more conversations with Lisa, where she explicitly instructed staff to ignore maintenance issues that should have been addressed immediately. Near the end of the day, Thomas was cleaning an SUV when he heard raised voices. Lisa was arguing with a customer at the front counter. Sir, there was no problem with the vehicle when you took it, Lisa said firmly. The check engine light came on halfway through my trip, the man replied, his face red with anger. I had to get it towed. Your company needs to refund my rental and pay for my taxi. Our records show the vehicle was inspected before your rental, Lisa said coolly. The issue must have developed during your use. Thomas moved closer, pretending to clean nearby. He recognized the customer's paperwork. It was for the same car that had the check engine light covered with black tape earlier in the week. That's not right, the customer insisted. Your company rented me a faulty car. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice, Lisa said. I've explained our policy. If you continue to be disruptive, I'll have to ask you to leave. The customer looked around helplessly, catching Thomas's eye. You work here. You know these cars. Is this how you treat customers? Thomas felt all eyes on him. The moment of truth had arrived sooner than he expected. He could continue his undercover role or stand up for what was right. He stepped forward, turning on the recorder in his pocket one last time. Actually, he said clearly, I've seen the car you rented. The check engine light was covered with tape last week. I reported it, but management decided to rent it out anyway. The silence in the room was deafening. Lisa's face went from shock to fury in an instant. Walker in my office now, she hissed. Thomas knew his cover was effectively blown, but he wasn't worried anymore. He had all the evidence he needed. The walk to Lisa's office felt like the longest of Thomas's life. Employees stared as he followed her through the rental center. Some looked confused, others worried. The angry customer was still at the counter, now being helped by another staff member who kept glancing nervously in Lisa's direction. Lisa closed her office door with a bang and turned to face Thomas. Her face was flushed with anger. What do you think you're doing? She demanded. You just undermined me in front of a customer and the entire staff. Thomas remained calm. I told the truth, that car wasn't safe to rent and you knew it. You've been here barely a week, Lisa shot back. You don't understand how this business works. We can't afford to take cars out of service for every little thing. A check engine light isn't a little thing, Thomas replied. Neither are worn tires or faulty seatbelts or brake fluid leaks. Lisa's eyes narrowed. Who are you, really? You don't talk like someone who's just cleaning cars for a living. Thomas took a deep breath. The moment had come sooner than he'd planned, but there was no going back now. He reached up and removed the baseball cap he'd been wearing all week. Then he took off the glasses that had been part of his disguise. My name isn't Tom Walker, he said quietly. I'm Thomas Wilson. I'm the CEO of Golden Road Rentals. The color drained from Lisa's face. She gripped the edge of her desk for support. That's not possible, she stammered. The CEO is at headquarters. He's me, Thomas finished for her. I've been working undercover for the past week because I wanted to see firsthand what was happening in our branches. Customer complaints have been increasing, particularly about vehicle safety issues. Now I understand why. Lisa sank into her chair. This is some kind of joke. Thomas pulled out his phone and called his assistant. He put it on speaker. Lily, it's Thomas. Could you confirm something for Ms. Chen here? Tell her who I am. Of course, Mr. Wilson. Lily's voice came through clearly. You're the founder and chief executive officer of Golden Road Rentals. Is everything all right with your undercover assignment? Lisa's mouth fell open in shock. Thank you, Lily, Thomas said, ending the call. He sat down across from Lisa, who now looked like she might be sick. I didn't know, she whispered. Clearly, Thomas replied. But that doesn't excuse what's been happening here. You've been putting profits ahead of people's safety. That's not what this company stands for. Lisa's shock began to turn to defensiveness. I was just following the bonus structure. The metrics reward keeping maintenance costs down and fleet utilization up. What did you expect would happen? I expected managers to use common sense and put safety first, Thomas said firmly. No bonus structure should ever incentivize endangering customers. Everyone does it, Lisa insisted. Ask any manager in the company. We all know headquarters wants the numbers to look good. Nobody cares how we get there. Thomas felt a chill run down his spine. Was this really how his company operated? Had he been so focused on growth and profits that he'd created a culture where employees thought cutting safety corners was acceptable? Before he could respond, there was a knock at the door. Tony, the mechanic, poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but he stopped mid-sentence when he saw Thomas without his disguise. Wait, you're not. Come in, Tony, Thomas said. Close the door. Tony entered cautiously, looking between Lisa and Thomas with confusion. Tony, I'm Thomas Wilson, the CEO of Golden Road Rentals. I've been working undercover to learn about operations at this branch. Tony's eyes widened. The CEO? For real? Thomas nodded. For real. And I need to know something important. Have you been instructed to cut corners on safety inspections? Tony glanced nervously at Lisa, who was staring at her desk. It's okay, Thomas assured him. You can speak freely. No one will lose their job for telling the truth. Tony took a deep breath. Yes, sir. We've been told to focus on quick turnarounds, not thorough inspections. Cars with minor issues still go out, sometimes major issues too. How long has this been happening? Since I started 3 years ago, Tony admitted. It got worse about a year ago when the new bonus structure came in. Thomas turned back to Lisa. Is this true throughout the company? Lisa looked up, her face resigned. As far as I know, yes, we share best practices at regional meetings. Everyone faces the same pressures. Thomas stood up, his mind made up. I need to address the staff. 10 minutes later, Thomas stood in the employee break room, which was now packed with workers from all departments. Word had spread quickly that something big was happening. People whispered to each other, stealing glances at the man they had known as the new car cleaner who was now standing at the front of the room without his disguise. Thank you all for coming, Thomas began. For those who haven't heard yet, my name is Thomas Wilson. I'm the CEO of Golden Road Rentals. A murmur swept through the room. Some employees looked shocked, others confused or worried. For the past week, I've been working alongside you as a car cleaner, under the name Tom Walker. I came here because I wanted to understand why customer complaints were increasing and satisfaction scores were dropping. What I discovered was deeply troubling. Thomas looked around the room, making eye contact with several workers he'd gotten to know. I've seen vehicles with safety issues being rented out. I've watched as maintenance problems were ignored. I've heard employees being instructed to cut corners that put our customers at risk. No one spoke. Some looked at the floor, others at Lisa, who stood stiffly in the corner. I want to make something absolutely clear, Thomas continued. This is not acceptable. It never has been, and it never will be. Safety comes first at Golden Road Rentals. Always. But the bonus structure, someone began, will be changed immediately, Thomas finished firmly. I take full responsibility for creating a system that incentivized the wrong behaviors. That ends today. He pulled out his phone and played one of the recordings he'd made of Lisa instructing staff to ignore safety issues. The room fell silent as her words filled the air. I didn't make these recordings to punish anyone, Thomas explained as he put his phone away. I made them because I needed evidence of a systemic problem, a problem that starts at the top, with me, and works its way through the entire company. Thomas could see the fear on many faces. People were worried about their jobs. No one in this room is getting fired today, he assured them. Not even management. Because this isn't about finding scapegoats. It's about fixing a broken system. Relief visibly swept through the room. Starting tomorrow, we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for safety issues. Any vehicle with a mechanical or safety concern will be taken out of service immediately. No questions asked. And yes, that will affect our availability and short-term profits. But it's the right thing to do. Thomas turned to Lisa. Ms. Chen, effective immediately. You're on paid administrative leave pending a full investigation of practices at this branch. Regional management will send someone to take over temporarily. Lisa nodded stiffly and left the room without a word. A hand went up in the back. It was Cindy from the front desk. Sir, if I may ask. What happens now? Thomas smiled for the first time since revealing his identity. Now, we rebuild. We go back to the values this company was founded on: safety, quality, and genuine customer care. It won't be easy and there will be growing pains. But together we're going to make Golden Road Rentals a company we can all be proud to work for. As the meeting broke up, several employees approached Thomas with their own stories of safety concerns they'd been afraid to report. Others thanked him for taking action. For the first time in a long while, Thomas felt like he was truly doing his job as CEO, leading his company toward something better than just profits. 6 months had passed since Thomas Wilson's undercover experience at the Denver branch of Golden Road Rentals. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows of his office as he reviewed the latest company reports. Unlike before, these weren't just financial statements. They included detailed safety inspection records, customer satisfaction scores, and employee feedback surveys. Thomas smiled as he flipped through the pages. The numbers told a story of remarkable change. Customer complaints about vehicle safety had dropped by 78%. Overall satisfaction ratings had climbed from a dismal 3.2 out of 5 to an impressive 4.7. And surprisingly to many on his board, profits hadn't collapsed as feared. After an initial 3-month dip, they had rebounded strongly. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Lily, his assistant, poked her head in. "Your 2 o'clock is here," she announced. "Thanks, Lily. Send him in." The door opened wider to reveal Tony, the mechanic from the Denver branch. He looked different now, more confident in his pressed uniform with a new patch that read Head of Safety Operations. "Good to see you, Tony," Thomas said, standing to shake the man's hand. "How was your flight?" "Can't complain, sir," Tony replied with a grin, still getting used to flying instead of driving everywhere. After the revelations in Denver, Thomas had made sweeping changes throughout the company. One of the most significant was creating a new department focused entirely on vehicle safety, with Tony, who had been brave enough to speak the truth, as its leader. "Ready for the regional managers meeting?" Thomas asked. Tony nodded, his expression turning more serious. "Got my presentation all prepared. Some of them aren't going to like what I have to say about their inspection records." "That's exactly why I hired you," Thomas said. "You don't sugarcoat the truth." Together, they walked to the large conference room where 20 regional managers from across the country waited. The room fell silent as Thomas entered. These meetings had a different feel now, less focused on celebrating profit margins and more centered on substantive improvements. "Good afternoon, everyone," Thomas began. "Before we get to the quarterly numbers, I want to remind you all about our new company motto, Safety First, People Always. It's not just a slogan, it's how we do business now." He nodded to Tony, who stepped forward to present his safety audit findings. As predicted, some managers shifted uncomfortably in their seats when their branches were highlighted for needed improvements. But unlike in the past, no one protested or made excuses. The new culture was taking hold. After the meeting, Thomas returned to his office to prepare for his next appointment. He checked his watch, almost time for his monthly video call with Lisa Chen. Many had expected Thomas to fire Lisa after what happened in Denver. Instead, he had offered her a choice: leave the company or help fix the problems she had perpetuated. To everyone's surprise, including Thomas's, she had chosen the latter. Now Lisa worked remotely, developing training programs to help managers recognize when they were making decisions that prioritized short-term profits over people's well-being. Her first-hand experience made her uniquely qualified for the role. When his computer chimed with the incoming call, Thomas accepted it to see Lisa's face on screen. "Afternoon, Mr. Wilson," she said. "Lisa, how's the new training module coming along?" "Just finished it yesterday," she replied. "It uses real examples from our branches to show how small decisions can create big safety risks. I've already tested it with the Northeast team. They said it really opened their eyes." "Good work," Thomas said sincerely. "It takes courage to use your own mistakes to help others learn." Lisa nodded, a hint of the old pride in her eyes, but directed towards something worthwhile this time. "Never thought I'd end up in this role, but it feels right. Using what I learned the hard way to make things better." After finishing his call with Lisa, Thomas glanced at the time and realized he needed to head downstairs. Today was special. He was going back into the field, but not undercover this time. In the parking lot, he changed from his suit into the standard Golden Road uniform. A group of employees waited for him near the cleaning station. "CEO cleaning day," called out Jerry, a veteran car cleaner. "We saved the dirtiest ones for you, boss." Thomas laughed. "I wouldn't expect anything less." One of his most significant policy changes had been establishing in their shoes days. Once every quarter, everyone in management, from shift supervisors to the CEO himself, spent a full day working frontline jobs. Executives cleaned cars, regional managers worked the rental counter, and department heads helped with maintenance. As Thomas grabbed cleaning supplies and headed toward his first vehicle, a young new employee fell in step beside him. "Is it true you worked undercover as a car cleaner?" she asked. The story had become company legend. "For 2 weeks, Thomas confirmed. "Best education I ever got." "Weren't you angry when you found out about all the problems?" Thomas considered this as he began wiping down the car's interior. "Not angry so much as disappointed. Mostly in myself. I had lost touch with what was happening in my own company. I was looking at spreadsheets instead of people." The afternoon passed quickly as Thomas worked alongside the regular staff. His hands weren't as soft as they used to be. These quarterly sessions had built up some calluses. But more importantly, his understanding of the day-to-day challenges his employees faced remained fresh and relevant. As the day wound down, Thomas joined the cleaning crew in the break room, a break room that, like all others across the company now, was clean, well-supplied, and comfortable. A TV in the corner was tuned to a business news channel. "Hey, look, it's us," someone called out. Sure enough, the screen showed the Golden Road Rentals logo as the news anchor spoke, making waves in the industry with their new approach to business. After implementing unprecedented safety standards and employee-focused policies, Golden Road has seen their market share increase by 22% this year alone. CEO Thomas Wilson credits the turnaround to a radical shift in company values. A cheer went up around the room. Thomas smiled but felt a twinge of discomfort at being singled out. "It wasn't just me," he said when the noise died down. "It was all of us deciding to do better." Later that evening, as Thomas drove home, he passed one of his company's rental locations. The lot was full of clean, safe vehicles ready for customers. Tomorrow. The illuminated sign bore not just the company name but also their new slogan: "Safety first, people always." Thomas thought about how close he had come to losing his way completely, how easy it would have been to remain in his office, focused solely on profit margins and growth projections. One bad review online had prompted him to go undercover, but without that push, would he ever have discovered the truth? He made himself a promise then, as he did every day now. Never again would he lose touch with the heart of his business. The numbers mattered, yes, but not as much as the people behind them, both employees and customers. The transformation of Golden Road Rentals wasn't just about new policies or better safety standards. It was about remembering what truly mattered in business and in life. Sometimes, Thomas reflected, the best view isn't from the top of the corporate ladder but from the ground floor, where the real work happens. And sometimes the most important thing a leader can do is put down the spreadsheets, roll up their sleeves, and clean a few cars.